everyone, thanks for tuning in to another ranking video of mine. The first thing I got to do is give props to each and every one of you who are liking the channel, who likes my videos, and most important, who are participating and leaving comments in the comment section. The last video I did was on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, and I asked in that episode that if you had any other rankings you would like me to do, please let me know in the comments. And I got quite a bit of suggestions to do, but the one that stuck out the most to me, I got from a few different people, was the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, which I'm more than happy to do that because the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise is my second favorite. My first is the Halloween franchise, excuse me, and the second is Nightmare on Elm Street. So I was like, heck yeah, let's go ahead and get it done. As always, I will be ranking more movies than just horror. I just want everybody to know that. I got an upcoming Dexter ranking that I'll be doing for all the Dexter fans. And I was asked in the comments if I'm going to do individual films. I didn't know if that just meant regular films or individual films of the horror franchises that I've been ranking, but I do plan on doing all those. I do actually have one in May coming up. It's going to be the 30th anniversary of one of my favorite movies of all time, The Crow. So in May, that'll be coming out celebrating the 30th anniversary of The Crow. But that being said, let's go ahead and get into the ranking of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And before I start, I just want to say this is not an official ranking whatsoever. This is just my ranking, my personal opinions. So if we all disagree, hey, it is what it is. That's one thing I do love about the horror fans, is that we can all discuss the movies, what we like, what we don't like, and everybody walk away happy. And I don't think my list is controversial, but we will see. So that being said, let's go ahead and kick this thing off. So coming in at number 9, it was really hard for me to choose the last spot because there's two films in this series that I just really don't enjoy whatsoever. But after it was all said and done, coming in at number 9 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 remake. I know so many people had an issue with this film that Robert Englund did not come back as Freddy, and so many people, including myself, was like, you cannot replace Robert Englund. He is Freddy. But I will say that I did like Jackie Earle Haley's portrayal of Freddy. I didn't really know much about the guy when he got casted, but I will say that I liked his voice. I liked the mannerisms that he had as Freddy in this movie. I didn't like the look. I kind of felt like he looked like a burnt alien. I know they were going with a more realistic look, but I didn't really care for it. And I think he did a really good job. But the problem is he did a good job in a bad film. And what I mean by that is the script really weighed heavily on the child molestation thing, and I didn't care for that because in the original Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, they never really say that he's a child molester. He's just a child killer. Well, they really focused on that. And, you know, you go to these films and you root for, if they have a perfect cast, you root for the heroes, but more than likely you're going because you want to see the slasher do his thing on TV or on the screen. Well, my feeling on this is, how do you root for a child molester? You know, there was things I did like about how when he would walk and he would play with the knives on his finger. I liked that, the noise it would make. I thought the effects in this film was good. I remember when I first watched it, and it was Dean's death scene at the very first scene in the diner, and it's where Dean's got the knife to his throat, and we get the first shot of Freddy, and he sticks the knife in his throat, and he just cuts his throat from ear to ear. When I saw that, I was like, wow. I was like, it's the best death scene, in my opinion, of the film. And I was like, here we go. But unfortunately, it was, yeah, here we go, straight down. And the main girl, Rooney Mara, who got casted for Nancy, she is the reason, one of the main reasons that this film sucks, is because she didn't. If you go back and look, this isn't just my opinion. You go back and look at interviews that she's did. She didn't even want the part. She said she went in and she was like, dang it, I nailed it. She knew she was going to get the part. She didn't put any effort into this. And that's the problem with this whole film, is all of the characters pretty much are so boring that you cannot relate to, you can't get behind. and it is. It's just it's a boring film. Let's just call it what it is. And her portrayal, she didn't. I mean, it was ridiculous. She ruined this movie. She should have never been casted. If she didn't want to do the film, she should have said, "I don't want the part. Thank you." You know, she could have done the audition. Okay, thank you, whatever, and then leave. But yeah, she ruined the movie. No expressions whatsoever. She was just so dull. I was like, "Are you serious?" I mean, it was like literally just sitting there like this the whole time when she was on the screen. But yeah, she ruined it. And there's actually an actor that I really do like his work. He's been in Smile. He was in The Outsiders. Um, Kyle Gallner, I believe his last name is. He's a really good actor. But his character in this movie, Quentin, once again, he was just so boring and expressionless. And I just felt like nobody brought any meaning to their characters in this movie. I would say the closest one was the girl that played Chris. Her name was Katie Cassidy. I thought that she did the best acting out of everybody, and she's a good actress anyway. But she was the only one that I felt like put any effort into their performance. Nancy, no, and like I said, Quentin, no. It was just the film's boring, and that's what sucks about it is because it really does have some really good spots in it. I love the scene where Nancy is she's sleep deprived and she's going in to talk to Quentin in the supermarket, I guess, where he was trying to go get some of his uppers. And she's falling, but she's falling asleep, going in and out. And Freddy's walking down the aisle. Then it cuts, and Freddy's in the boiler room. Then it cuts back, and he's knocking stuff off the shelves. Such a good scene. And I love the way Freddy in this when he's like, "Why are you screaming? I haven't even cut you yet." I mean, he was scary in this movie. The problem is it was, I feel, a good Freddy in a bad movie. I'll put it that way. Uh, Jackie Earl Haley, like I said, I thought he did a good job. It just sucks that the movie sucked. But like I said, that's coming in dead last is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 remake. Okay, coming in at number 8, this is the film that I was having trouble deciding which one I hated more between the remake and this one. And this is coming in at number 8. It is Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. I have never liked this movie. Ever since I was young enough to start watching these movies, nothing really stuck out to me. This Robert Englund, don't get me wrong, phenomenal actor, but his Freddy in this one is not scary at all. The look is terrible. He's got a extended nose, like it's almost like a Squidward nose, but it looks more like a witch. Um, yeah, this is just too far out there for me for Freddy. The only really good thing I can say about the film is Dan's death scene. I really like Dan from part 4, but the scene where he's on the motorcycle, and it's turning into Freddy, and he's in his pickup truck, but when he's dreaming, he's on the motorcycle and he's going back and forth, and the machine's coming in, becoming Freddy, and it's going into his arms and stuff. Cool kill, cool effect, but other than that, that's pretty much about it. Um, Mark, the comic book guy, when I was younger, I thought his death scene was pretty neat. It was unique, I'll put it that way. But now that I watch it, I'm just like, man, I would have been disappointed paying money to go see this back in the day because it's too cartoonish, way too cartoonish, which is going to contradict one of the films that I ranked higher above it. Uh, but yeah, this film right here, I just never have enjoyed. Lisa Wilcox come back as Alice. I think she's a good actress. I did like her portrayal in the movie. Um, Greta, Greta's death scene where Freddy's going bon appetit and he just keeps stuffing her mouth and she's getting fuller and fuller. Uh, the effects were cool. I'll give it that. But the death scenes just really did not stick out in this film. I didn't like the boy. I don't even know his name. The kid that uh, Freddie was chasing after. I didn't really like his portrayal. I'm not hating on the guy now, but I never really thought his acting was that good. Overall, this film is just thumbs down to me. When I go back to watch all these films, I never watch Dream Child. Um, just nothing about it really interests me to watch it anymore. So that's why it's coming in at number 8. Okay, so I figure this is going to be the big controversial one. But coming in at number 7 is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I will say this from this point on, I enjoy all of these films. So there's really not one that I'm going to say a lot of bad things about. I do like them from this point on. This is just my personal opinion where it ranks, and I'll tell you why. New Nightmare, I enjoy the film. I think it's so cool to have Robert Englund playing Robert Englund. I think it's cool to have Heather Langenkamp. We got John Saxton back because I love him. He's a wonderful actor. I remember the first movie I've ever seen him in was Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. I just think he was a phenomenal actor. Um, but the problem with this film to me is it's a little too slow for me to sit down and be able to enjoy. I do watch it when I do watch the franchise when I'm getting in the mood to watch them all the way through. I always skip five and I go to this one. I do enjoy the movie. I think Freddy's look or the demon's look, I know it's actually supposed to be not Freddy, but I'm going to say Freddy. I think Freddy's look in this looks awesome. I love how it's more instead of burnt, it's more like his flesh is missing, and you can see the tissue underneath. Um, he don't really have a glove. He's got the knives coming out of all five of his fingers. I think that's really cool. I love the trench coat. Um, you could tell that Wes Craven came back to do this. There was things missing from the other sequels that this one picked right back up. Heather Langenkamp, man, she's a phenomenal actress. She did a great job in this film. I do remember watching it when it came out in '94. I was so confused because, let's see, '94, I was 8 years old, and I was like, well, why is Robert or not Robert England? I was like, why is Freddy Krueger coming out on a talk show and doing his thing, where he's waving at everybody? I didn't get it, but the older I got, then I was like, oh, okay. I didn't appreciate what it was when it came out in '94. Miko Hughes from Pet Cemetery and Kindergarten Cop. I think he's a good actor, grown up and as a child. I think he is a good actor, but um, I'm weird. It's always when they have a kid in the mix. If the kid's performance ain't on spot on, it's kind of like one of those. Kind of ruins it for me. Um, I hated how Dylan would constantly scream when he would have a fit. Uh, I know when he put the knives up and he was like, "Never sleep again." That stuff just kind of, I don't know. I watch it now and I'm like, I didn't really care for that. That's just my opinion. Uh, but one of the coolest things is Julie's death scene when they're in the hospital and Freddy comes up behind her and he pops his hand out like this and she's like, "What's wrong, Dylan?" He goes, "Julie, behind you." I think that's a phenomenal kill. It's almost just like what he did to Tina in the first one, but he's dragging her up the wall. And of course, the famous line where he gets right up to the screen, he's like, "Hey, Dylan, ever play Skin the Cat?" Cool scene. Love the death scene. And I will say the final act always gets me. I'll get my hair on my arms will start standing up when Heather Langenkamp gets to the hospital. Her son's gone, and then she's running across the highway and all that. Just a phenomenal third act. Like I said, uh, do enjoy the film. Just got a few things that I would have changed, but other than that, that's why this film is coming in at number 7. Okay, coming in at number 6 is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2: Freddy's Revenge. I have heard so much negativity on this film over the years that uh, I know that it's supposedly like the gay Nightmare on Elm Street film. I get it. Now watching it, you can see um, if they did it on purpose or if it was by accident. I know that instead of having the lead female, you have a lead male in it, and the lines that Mark Patton would say uh, in the movie, he's trying to get inside me and stuff like that. I know it is kind of comical now, but I still enjoy this film. Um, I would take out the dance scene. I would take that scene out because to this day, even when I watch it, I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh. But overall, I do enjoy this film, and I think this is one of the most creepiest and most evil Freddys that we have in the entire franchise. Freddy's look is evil. I like that he don't have his glove and that it's coming out of his fingers. Um, and I do like the cast. I think Mark Patton did a great job as Jesse. Um, we also have Kim Myers as Lisa, and then I like his buddy Grady. I thought Grady and Jesse uh, played off each other really good in the movie. I did like that duo. Um, yes, I will say one of the main problems is with what everybody says about this film is when Freddy's supposed to be in your nightmares, but he does come out at the pool party. But that being said, that is one of the coolest scenes, though. And I love when the fire's coming up behind Freddy and he's like, "You are all my children now." I love it. The scene where Jesse's in Grady's room and he's like, "Oh God, it's happening again!" And he opens his mouth, and you can see Freddy's eye in his mouth, and he's looking around, and then he comes out of Jesse. Man, that is such a cool scene. The effects in this movie is so good. Um, I hate the shower scene because they didn't have Robert Englund there. They tried to replace Robert Englund, and you can clearly see that that is not Robert Englund as Freddy. And I don't like the scene where uh, the coach is tied to the showers and the towels whipping them. That was just a little bit too. It didn't fit in the movie because this movie was so serious, and you had such an evil Freddy, and then that would have been something that would have fit more in like Freddy's Dead or something like that. But I still enjoy this film. There is some cheesy parts in it, like I said at the beginning, but other than that, yeah, I definitely think that this is a good Freddy's film. So that being said, let's move on to the next one. Okay, coming in number 5, and this is where I figure everybody's going to hate on me. Is Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare? Yes, I picked this one over New Nightmare, and I will say this: this is why. Because this film is the very first Freddy Krueger film I had ever seen when I was little. This is what introduced me to the franchise. My brother got to go see this in the theater in 3D. I was too young, I couldn't go, and he told me all about it. And then when it was finally available to rent on VHS, I went and rented it. And me and my cousin, for some reason, would always rent this one. And I enjoy this film. Yes, I know the acting's not great. I know it's cartoon Freddy all over. But that was the thing is I had so much fun with it watching it when I was young that I still have fun with it to this day. I love the fact that Freddy has the power glove because we used to have a glove on a old Nintendo. And I remember after watching this movie, we were like, "Hey, he's got the Nintendo glove," and we would put it on and act like Freddy and stuff. But um, overall, I enjoy the movie for what it is. Like I said, the acting's not the best. The lead actress is Lisa Zane. She plays Maggie. I will say her acting is, uh, I must say, C level in this movie. There's just certain scenes where, like when John Doe looks at her, he's like, "It's not a boy, it's a," and he starts to fade off, and she's like, like it's yeah, it's she's a sweet woman. I've met her, and she's very nice and polite. She's very sweet, but yeah, her acting wasn't the best in this. I did like seeing Robert Englund play Freddy without the makeup. I like how they had the backstory to where he got picked on. I like the story where he was like, his wife found all of the gloves and she's like, "I'll never tell." And all of his gloves are hanging up. I like the backstory to that. I really did. I thought they did a pretty good job on that. And that this whole time they took away his kid. And that's why he started taking the kids away from them. I like that. I was like, cool. They never said anything about the being a child molester or nothing like that. It was just child killer. I like it. My favorite death scene in this film is Carlos's death scene. And man, she takes that Q-tip, his mother takes that Q-tip and shoves it all the way in one ear and out the other, and then gets thrown through a brick wall and he goes tumbling down. He can't hear. I love that when Freddy's like looking at him going, "Hey, hey," all this stuff. I'm sorry I get into this I get into this franchise. Uh, like I said, Freddy is just funny in this movie. I love the fact that they even brought Johnny Depp back for it, and Johnny Depp's like, "This is your brain. This is your brain on eggs, or this is your brain on drugs." And all of a sudden, the frying pan hits him, and Freddy's like, "Looks like a bunch of eggs to me," and then he of course, brings the kid into the TV, and all the hippie-looking uh, stoner colors coming out and taking the guy in. Like I said, I have fun with the movie. The acting is not great. Uh, it does Tracy. It does hit home with her as far as the stepdad. I think it was a stepdad, or maybe it was just her dad. How now he was seductive to her and molesting her, but that dealt with a deep subject. But I liked how they handled it enough to where she fought back and stuff. But and then of course we got to talk about the finale, the 3D aspect to it. Uh, it's not the best, but I have always just enjoyed seeing Robert Englund be Freddy without the burnt. At the end, that's what made it for me when him and Maggie's fighting, and he's covered up like this, and he looks up, and it's Robert Englund. It's not Freddy. I think that's so cool. I've always wanted to see a prequel, and I know it's probably too late now, but I'd love to see Robert Englund come back and play Freddy before he got burnt and all that stuff. I thought it'd be so neat. But overall, not the best acting, not the best characters, but I do enjoy the film. And I know the whole Wizard of Oz opening where he's like, I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too, and all that stuff. It's just one of the films where it's different from all the other ones, and I enjoy it. So, anyway, that's why it's coming in at number 5. Okay, coming in at number 4 is A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 4, The Dream Master. This is another one that I really enjoy. I think it's one of Freddy's best looks in the film. Um, I do enjoy the cast in this movie. Um, Lisa Wilcox is introduced as Alice. Tuesday Night replaces Patricia Arquette as Christian. And I do like Alice's brother in this film, Rick, and then we get the character Dan. Overall, I like the cast of characters. I didn't care how they killed Kincaid and Joey at the beginning of it because they were such impact players in the third one. But this is another film that I feel like the death scenes were really good. Uh, they have more of a comedic and horror aspect to it, like the cockroach scene. That's terrifying. And to me, that's terrifying. The girl's lifting weights, and he pushes down on the bar, and he breaks her arms, and then they just flop over, and all of a sudden she's turning into a roach because she hates roaches, and that part is scary. But then when she's like falls face first in the roach goo, whatever you want to call it, and she open and her face comes off, but then there's Freddy looking at her, and that's kind of comedic. He squashes her like a bug, and then he gets I can't think of the girl's name, but she has asthma, and he's like, "Want to suck face," and he sucks the soul out of her pretty much. Um, and then the way they killed Christian, I felt like she should have had a better or Kristen. I'm sorry, I keep saying Christian. Kristen. I felt like she should have had a better way to go out than just being tossed in the furnace. And she's like, Alice, take my power, boom. But I like the fact that they still had it where she could call her power was calling in people to her dreams. Um, but overall, yeah, I think fantastic film. I enjoy it. I love the finale. I love uh, the final fight with Alice and Freddy. So, only thing I didn't really care for, of course, was because they had ran out of money apparently, and they didn't have the budget to film a really good death scene. Was for her brother, Rick's death scene. Yeah, where he's fighting nothing. I mean, you can't get more cheesier than that. But no, overall, I still do like the film. I enjoy watching it. So, like I said, that's why it's coming in at number 4. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, coming in at number 3 is Freddy versus Jason. Now, I love this movie. This is in my top 5 horror movies of all time. And yes, I know it's not scary, but it is a dream come true for people who wanted to see these two iconic horror slashers hit one on one in one film. And I know the big controversial was, oh, it didn't have Kane Hodder in it. I like Kane Hodder, but he's not my favorite Jason. I think there's different portrayals of Jason that I like better, but I thought Ken Kirsinger did a good job for what he was given. But that being said, I think this movie is more of a Freddy Krueger movie, more of a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and I think Freddy's look in this film is phenomenal. It's my favorite portrayal by Robert Englund as Freddy. If you even notice the small details, Freddy's sweater is even darker. It's not a bright green red, it's a dark green red. His blades are even a little bit longer on his glove. The fedora is even dirtier. I love the makeup. The makeup is phenomenal. And I love when Freddy gets pissed off later on in the dream sequence when he comes up out of the water and he looks like a demon. I feel like this is top notch Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger at his best. Um, I love the cast in this movie. And, I was really hesitant to put this in the ranking because I wasn't even going to do it with my first video, the Friday 13th, but so many people wanted it. And I've seen so many reviews where they do stick it in there. So I was like, okay, I can't ignore it. But that being said, this movie to me delivers. It delivers on the name. Once Freddy and Jason start fighting, the fight scenes are phenomenal. And my favorite actual part in this movie is Gibbs' death scene, where it's finally after all these years that we've been waiting for a new Freddy movie, and she's drunk, and when she goes into that, like, it's almost like a big cotton gin maybe or corn gin, I don't know what it is, and she goes into the nightmare, and Freddy's sitting there, and he's like, what's the matter, Gib? The only thing to fear is fear himself. Love it. I love that entire sequence. I love how they light Freddy in this movie. How that whole entire sequence is all red, and he's such in the shadow that you can't even hardly see his face through that. Well, then later on, when Freddy and Jason are fighting in Jason's dream, and um, Jason grabs hold of Freddy, throws him up, and when he hits a pipe and all the water starts coming down, they make the entire screen green. And that look on Freddy when he's getting up and he looks so vicious, but it's all green. You can't tell that he's got a red and green sweater on. Just the lighting in this movie is phenomenal. I think the acting, Jason Ritter, John Ritter's son, is playing Will. I thought he did a tremendous job. Monica Keena is Lori. I think she's a good final girl. And Brendan Fletcher as Mark. I think he's a phenomenal actor, and he did a great job in this movie. His death scene with Freddy, phenomenal in the bathroom, where I mean, just all of it, especially when he goes up to him and he goes, pass on a little message for him, and he's like, I won't do it. He goes, no, and he looks so mean, and then he's like, I guess I'll have to pass that message on myself, won't I? Mm-hmm. And he chunks him against the wall, and Freddy just puts his hand like that, and he catches on fire, and then of course it says Freddy's back burnt into his back. Oh man, just overall, I love this film. I enjoy the film, uh, and I don't know. Like I said, I remember going to the theater, and I went. I think I went 3 times to watch this theater, and every time I loved it even more. But overall, to me, in my opinion, fantastic film. Lived up to the hype. Love the finale, and I am one of the ones that will say Freddy won. Yes, he was just ahead, but that wink at the end lets you know that, hey, is all somebody's got to do is remember Freddy and dream up Freddy, and he's right back. So I think Freddy won, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, down to the final two. And coming in at number 2 is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. This is what a lot of people consider to be the best Nightmare on Elm Street film, and it's hard for me to disagree, but I will have to say that this always comes in at number 2 when I watch 1 and 3 back to back, because I really enjoy this one. I love Freddy's look in this. The cast is phenomenal. You have Patricia Arquette as Kristen. You have Joey. You have, I think her name is Tyron, the rock chick. You have Will, Kincaid, and of course Jennifer. You got Philip, and then of course I love the fact that they brought John Saxton back to be Donald again, to be Heather Langenkamp's father, and of course Nancy's back. So I think that, to me, this is one of the best portrayal of Nancy that we get. I love her in the first one, and I love her in New Nightmare, but I just love the fact that she's here to help out these kids. She knows what they've been through, and then they finally introduced a hypnosil to help them to quit dreaming. But the cast is phenomenal. Um, the death scenes, some of the most iconic death scenes, is in this film, especially with Jennifer. she's wanting to be an actress and she's trying to stay awake because she puts a cigarette on her arm and she's watching TV. And of course, Freddy pops up on TV and she goes up close to it. And all of a sudden, he comes out of the TV and he says the famous line, "Welcome to prime time," you know, and shoves her face into the TV. One of the most highlighted kill scenes of this entire franchise. And then you can't forget Philip's death scene where the claymation of Freddy drops down. All of a sudden, he grows up and becomes Freddy at the end of Phillips's bed. Such a good scene. All of a sudden, you see him cutting them, and all of a sudden, all of his like veins and stuff come out, and he's just walking them like a puppet. And he's got him up high on that tower, and I love how you can see Freddy above him, and he's kind of like moving his fingers. All of a sudden, he just cuts it, and Philip falls to his death. Makes it look like a suicide. Man, just of course, hey, want to get high. Phenomenal scene. Sticks it in. I think her name is Tyron. I think is her name. And Will, I would like to see more of a Will put up a fight. Where he wanted to be the wizard, and but I mean, Freddy picks him up, holds him up, and he's like, I don't believe in fairy tales, kid, or something. I can't even remember what he says, and then he kills him. But I love the character Kincaid. I wish he would have been the one to move on in part 4 and been more of a main character. Joey, I like Joey. He finds his talent at the end of the film, but he wasn't my favorite. But yeah, definitely, man, part 3 just has so much going for it. Right along with what I said about Freddy vs. Jason, where I felt like this was a perfect mix. I think Robert Englund did a phenomenal job. Like I said, I love the fact that John Saxton's back. And then the final fight scene in the grave, I like the fact that they have to bury Freddy's bones. I like that. And the final fight where Freddy's bones pop up and it's him and Neil fighting, Neil Gordon, the doctor. Yes, it's dated where you could tell it's CGI now, or he's in front of a screen, whatever you want to say. But it's still a good final fight. And then, of course, the surprising death of Nancy in this film. And when Kristen is crying and she sacrificed herself so Kristen and all of them wouldn't die. He stabs, he tricks Nancy to thinking that, he's her dad. But man, it's such an emotional scene. And, I just felt like if they would have ended the franchise with this one, would have been happy. Not saying not hating on the other ones because I really, like I said, I've already said I like the other films, but yes, this film is phenomenal, and I know a lot of people this is their favorite one because Freddy to me wasn't too comical in this movie to ruin it, but I think he had enough humor and enough old school Freddy man where it really matched up good. So that being said, it was really hard to pick between this one and number one. So let's move on to the last one. And of course, coming in at number one is the original 1984, A Nightmare on Elm Street. To this day, this is in my top 5 favorite horror films of all time. I love Freddy's look in this movie. That one right there. I love Freddy's look. It's not my favorite, but I do like the simplicity of it. I love the fact that even his right ear is almost like burnt completely off. The casting is phenomenal in this movie. You have Johnny Depp as Glenn. You have Amanda, I think her name is Hayes, as Tina. And then you got the character Nancy, Heather Langenkamp. Of course, John Saxton as Donald. And then the other character, Ron. Just overall, the casting was perfect, in my opinion, in this movie. I love Ron's death scene where Freddy comes into the jail cell and you can see that the sheet is going around Ron's neck. It's so good. Love that. Tina's death scene. I mean, it's hard to top that one. And Tina's death scene in this was so violent, and the way they rotated the room, that's pure horror. I love it. And before that even happens, where Tina goes out and sees Freddy, and Freddy's in the alleyway and his arms are stretching out. Yeah, it may look goofy now, but it was so cool. And I still like the fact that how they did it. And then, when he's on top of Tina and she grabs his face and rips it off, and he's just like doing this weird laugh, and how he cuts his fingers off. I mean, this is straight up no comedy. This is straight up horror Freddy. And I really, really like it. I like how Robert, I think it's his right side, how he kind of tilts the right side because he said the glove was so heavy. Perfect way to introduce Freddy Krueger. Heather Langenkamp, her performance in this is phenomenal. The final act is amazing. I love the fact that she's setting all these booby traps up, almost kind of like a Home Alone type deal. Uh, Johnny Depp's death scene as Glenn, one of the most bloodiest death scenes of any of the franchises, of course. And I'm so glad they stuck with this one because I don't know how many people know it, but when he got sucked down in the bed and the blood's all coming up, that's all we needed to see. If you watch the original cut of it, his body comes back up out of the bed and he falls over. I just felt like now that you watch it, it's kind of one of those. Yeah, that was it. Wasn't too much to where it was like shocking. It was just almost like, yeah, stick with the simplicity of just the blood coming up. Um, Man, overall, I enjoy this movie. Like I said, I love it. I still think it holds up to this day. And man, Wes Craven just knew exactly what he was doing with this movie. And it's always funny that I can talk more about the other films, but when I get to this one, it's kind of like I get starstruck almost, where I'm like, man, what else do I say about this movie that hasn't already been said? But overall, it's just a phenomenal film. Still holds up. Here it is. Let's see, 84, 94, 2004, 2014, 40 years old. 40 freaking years old, man, and it still lives up to this day. Um, the car scene at the end, a lot of people was like, well, what did that mean? Was she still dreaming or what? And then of course the mom being brought into the window of the door. Yes, it looks cheesy, and yes, that is comical. But I love how the car is driving off at the end, and the little girls are sitting there playing, and you hear the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. Oh man, just overall phenomenal. So that being said, that was my ranking of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I really hope you guys and gals are enjoying the content that I'm putting out. Um, Once again, if you cannot get enough horror talk, and if you like podcasts, please check out mine and my buddies' podcasts. We're available on Spotify. You can download us on iTunes. We are Small Town Horror with Johnny and Randy. Uh, please tell your friends and family about the YouTube channel and tell them about the podcast. Uh, Also, please leave your rankings of the Nightmare on Elm Street films in the comments below. And if you have any franchises that you would still like me to rate, that's fine. But if you have any individual films that you'd like to hear my thoughts on, leave them in the comments. Whatever you'd like to hear me review. It doesn't just have to be horror, but like I said, a lot of this is going to be horror because that's my favorite franchise. But that being said, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope you guys are digging what I'm doing. So, that being said, signing off, thank you, and always stay creepy.